This is the next part of our Regents Review online session. We are on page 6 of your green packet. Just again, the tips, please make sure you're in a quiet place. Make sure you're listening and writing things down. Pause and rewind as needed. Make sure you are trying the problems. If all you're doing is fast forwarding and copying down the solutions I have, it is not going to help you be prepared for that exam. Trust me, okay? So please try the problems. Look back at the notes, the couple examples that we did. Make sure you understand those and try to use those to guide your work. There are hints in this video, so if you're stuck, just make sure you hit play to get a hint and then pause again to try the problem and bring in any questions you might have. So what we're going to be looking at is factoring trinomials. Now, before we get started with this, off to the side, I'd like you to think about if we were factoring a number like 12, okay? In the past, we've factored things like 6, where it's broken down into 2 and 3, and we're done. We don't have to go any further because 2 and 3 are prime. Okay, the trinomials we've factored up to now have been like 6. They break down into just 2 binomials and we're done. With 12, we can think of things that go into 12, such as 6 and 2, okay? And that 2 is prime, but the 6 can be broken down again. So now we're going to take a look at trinomials where we don't just break it down once, we've got to break it down twice. Your steps for doing this. If they say factor completely, this should indicate that you might be breaking it down more than once. One of the easiest ways to see this is to check for a GCF. The GCF, and again, you should be jotting this down so that you're kind of processing this, might be a number, a variable, or both. So the first example, it says factor this completely. That tells me I might need to look for a GCF or break this down more than once. The first thing I notice is that all my coefficients are even. So that tells me a 2 is going to go into all 3 terms. So I'm going to take a 2 out first. I want to go back a minute to the numerical example we were looking at. Once I pulled a 2 out, how did I find the 6? Well, you take the number you started with and you divide by the value you're taking out, and that gives you the value that remains. So when I pull a GCF of 2 out, I'm going to divide each of my terms by 2 and figure out what's left. Well, 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared. 16x will become plus 8x because 16x over 2 is 8. X minus 18 over 2, whoops, it's not plus, would be minus 9. So now I have a case where I still have a trinomial left, and I'm going to break that trinomial down. Well, how do we factor a trinomial like this? This is back to what we've been doing all year. So I'm going to put my x squared in the top corner, my minus 9 in the bottom. I'm going to multiply those together. And I can go ahead and think about things that multiply to negative 9. Now, I want to show you another way you can get these. If you go to menu, add graphs. If I'm finding factors of negative 9, I'm going to take negative 9 and I'm going to divide it by x and hit enter, and I'm going to pull up my table. So Control T. Whoops. What I'm going to see here is factors of 9, or of negative 9. So I can see 1, times negative 9x. I can also reverse those signs, so negative 1x and 9x. And then I'm going to keep looking for integer factors. So here's one, 3x and negative 3x. I need my middle term to be positive 8, which means I'm looking for the pair of factors that add up to 8. So I'm going to put a 9x in one of these boxes and a negative 1x in the other box. And I just need to figure out what goes on the outside. And I get that my two factors of x squared plus 8x minus 9 are x plus 9 and x minus 1. And neither of those can be broken down again. So now I have my three factors of this binomial. So my final answer is 2 times x plus 9 times x minus 1. So really the only thing different when it's this factor completely is you might have a GCF to take out initially. Okay. Let's look at another one. The trinomial x squared minus 14x plus 49 can be expressed as. If I look at my coefficients, I've got a 1, a 14, and a 49. None of those have a common factor. My first term has an x squared, my second term has an x, my third term does not have an x. So they don't have a variable in common. So this, I don't have to take a GCF out. I'm just going to factor it. I'll set up my area model. I'm putting my first term up here, my last term down here, and then I'm going to multiply these together. So I've got to think about things that are going to give me 49. So factors of 49. If you want to use the calculator, you can come back to this graph. And instead of negative 9 over x, I'm going to type in 49 over x. And I'll go back to my table. And now I can see my factors of 49 are 1 and 49. And if I scroll down, there's another set, 7 and 7. And then remember, if it's positive, my signs can be both positive or both negative. A negative times a negative is a positive. So a lot of things to think through. Since my middle term is negative 14x, this is the set of factors I'm going to use. So if we're thinking about our factor tree, this would break down into x minus 7 times x minus 7. Neither of those can be broken down again. So this would be my answer. That's how it factors. Now I don't see that as an answer, but I can remember that if you've got two of the same thing multiplied together, that is the same as squaring it. Okay, so what I want you to do now is pause the video and give this first one a try. Press play if you're stuck and there will be a hint. So my hint for you is, I notice I've got a 2, an 8, and a negative 10, and they're all even. So there is actually a GCF of 2 that comes out of there. So go ahead and use that first example. See if you can figure out what is left. Pause the video and give it a try. Here's your solution. So here's my final answer right here. Let's try another one. Pause the video and give it a try. My hint for you is, in this equation, there is no GCF. So I'm just going to set up my area model. And sorry, I shouldn't have said equation. I should have said expression. There's no equal sign there. So that's where I would get started. Now I'm going to show you the solution. So if you haven't tried this, pause it and give it a try. Here's your solution. And they're just looking for which of the following is a factor. So they're not listing both. We can find both factors, and then I just need to see which one shows up in my answer choices. Last one to try. Pause the video. There is a hint if you need. My hint for you is on this one. There's no GCF either. So see if you can figure out what we do if there is no GCF. And here's your answer. Okay, that's the end of that one. If you need more practice with factoring, definitely come in and let me know. We can do that. Thanks so much.